Well, hello and happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to APMG Connect, the live stream panel show where we delve into the latest industry trends and insights. Now, this is backed by popular demand, and we'll be running this series every 2 weeks, so be sure to stay tuned. Now, my name is Lori Quackenbush, and I'm with APMG International out of New York, and I'm absolutely delighted to be your host for today's exciting discussion. Now, the title for today's show is Future Change Manager. Strategist, coach, or therapist. Now, we have a really great experienced panel for you today. And in the ever evolving landscape, we all know that the role of a change manager is constantly transforming. Now, are you or should you become a strategist who directs change, a coach who empowers teams, or a therapist who navigates emotional challenges? I think we can all agree this is a very important topic right now as we are all dealing with a ton of change. Now, to explore these intriguing roles, we are joined with a distinguished group of panelists who bring a wealth of expertise and experience. So let's meet our panelists. So ladies first. First, we have Tammy Watchhorn. Now, Tammy is a chief change ninja at Change Ninja Limited. Now, Tammy has turned her experiences of putting people over process into the gamified Change Ninja adventure books and created the 4-Day Ninja Challenge. And I love her book. So you'll definitely get a copy of this. Welcome, Tammy. Love your books. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Look forward to the conversation.
So happy to have you here. Now, our next amazing panelist is we have Louisa Lur. Now, Louisa is the managing partner of Lifting Lanterns, where she provides strategic leadership as a coach, mentor, consultant, and speaker in the discipline of project delivery. With over 2 decades of experience spanning both technical and non-technical domains across public and private sectors. How are you, Louisa? Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Laurie. I'm so excited to be back in this first one that I'm actually out of bed when rest of Australia and New Zealand are probably tucked in right now. So I'm
Love it.
excited.
We are so delighted to have you here. So thank you. Really appreciate you. Now, next we have Ket Patel. Ket is the founder of Change Agitators and is a Change Management Institute accredited master change practitioner with over 20 years of experience working with small to medium-sized organizations as they look to scale, grow, and modernize their businesses. Hi, Ket. How are you?
Hey, yeah, I'm very good, and it's great to be on this first of the new series of Connect Live. So yeah, exciting.
We're like so happy to be here. So happy to have this back. So thank you for joining us. And then last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Bryn Hodgkiss. He is the founder and storytelling strategist at the Psychology of Stories. Training originally in psychology, Bryn's career started interviewing serial murderers. You heard that right, serial murderers. I love it. He then spent the next 15 years supporting police investigations, then moving on to operational management and large-scale transformation. Great to have you, Bryn.
Wonderful to be here. Thanks for the invite. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say.
I love it. Yeah, we already have a great list of live questions already, so bring them on, everyone. Now, thanks for joining us. Now, we're going to be exploring, again, the evolving rooms of change managers and what skills and mindsets are needed to lead effectively in the future. So we invite everybody to participate. Feel free to send in your live questions and comments. Use the chat, in our social team, and then we'll get your questions to the panel to answer live. So get your questions in early, folks, as we have a lot to cover today. And we also have Ella over in the chat. So go ahead, introduce yourselves, get involved, let us know your name and the city where you're watching. So without further ado, we have a lot to get into. So let's dive in and uncover the future of change management. Now, our first question is, we have tons of these guys, so this is, how will the balance between strategist, coach, and therapist roles evolve in future change management? This comes from Amanda. Let's get right into it. Who wants to answer first? Ket, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, what an interesting question. I mean, I was really intrigued by the therapist introduction of the role.
Right.
So, I mean, what I've noticed is wherever you look in organizations is that everyone is at really different places. And It's been driven by lots of reflections over the last few years of what's driving changes for them, but also what they're having to use and implement from a technology point of view in terms of helping their organizations to change. So I think one of the things we as professionals need to do is we kind of need to be really aware of each of these different roles, what they offer, and what the organization might need. What I'm doing right now is I'm seeing a lot of need for middle managers squeezed between this sort of constant demand for kind of, can you please look at this other change that's coming, and a desire from employees that want some sense of solid ground. And so I'm doing a lot of coaching with middle managers where I'm trying to give them tools that help them balance uncertainty, give them tools to help others experience of change, give them the tools to kind of manage back up and say, we can only do so much. So please make priority calls. So I think for me, what I'm seeing is the coaching element is like a current focus. I think strategies has always been important. Time horizons for strategy are changing, you know, like it used to be 3 and 5 year. Now it's like, well, we should probably look at it again in 3 months' time. So I think that role is perhaps sometimes best left to other people. But the coaching thing for me is definitely becoming a prominent bit. And I do think we need to keep an eye on all of the different things that are sort of potentially coming into the roles of change managers and support. I'm really interested in the therapist notion from others, though. I really am.
I love that, the therapist. You mentioned uncertainty. What uncertainty? What do you mean? There's no uncertainty. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's just normal. It's fine.
It's all normal. So good. Tammy, you had your hand up. You want to answer this as well?
Yeah, so I think it's a balance between the three. The big thing about change that makes it hard is other people. Human beings make change messy. The tech bit's relatively straightforward. So the hard bit for the change manager is getting everyone on board. But to do that, you need to create that futuristic story of where we're going. That's the strategy bit. Why do we want to get there? How can you sell it in a way that everybody wants to be moving towards that change because it's good for them? Some people will still be stuck. So how do you coach them with coaching questions? How might we do this? We haven't done it yet, so how might we? So changing the mindset from fixed to growth mindset, once you've created that visionary story, can help shift people towards doing it. And then the therapist role, I think it's more in the background, but it's understanding as a change leader that people don't like change. None of us do. We've evolved to dislike change. So you need to understand that, understand how the brain works, the neuroscience of change, why people are reacting the way they're doing. They're probably not doing it consciously, they're doing it subconsciously. So shifting that is quite a challenge. So for me, that's around almost being a therapy to yourself, because it's probably you as a change leader that needs to change your approach to do that final push for those that are still resisting.
Yeah, so interesting. So interesting. Bren, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, and my point actually sort of builds a little bit on Tammy. So a thing I learned from serial murderers is that the story you tell yourself about yourself can go really wrong and have really bad consequences. And in particular, one of the most dangerous stories are those that we don't realize that we're telling. And that's actually what excited me about joining this webinar, is it calls attention to the hidden narratives in change management. You know, the hidden narrative around emotion and trauma and developing people, all the while thinking about the future. So how will that balance change? In my opinion, we don't know. But what I do know is that the change manager of the future must be aware of the stories they tell themselves about themselves, and be able to tell different stories depending on whether you're operating in a strategic, coaching, or therapeutic way.
Right. Makes perfect sense. Love that. Love that. Louisa, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, I'm really just wrapping up on what everyone has said, is the fact that I think all three of those type of roles, strategist or coach or therapist, is that it's all going to blur, and we're all going to hear even other words in the future. And I think the big thing is just embracing that when jack of all trades now, we wear multiple hats. You can't just pigeonhole yourself to one spot and go, that's it.
Right. Right. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Let's keep going and get on to our next question. So our next question is, what skills and competencies must future change managers develop to embody strategist, coach, and therapist roles? This is a question from Ryan. Very good question, Ryan. Thank you so much. Who would like to tackle this first? No one? Crickets?
No, I don't want to be the first off the mark all the time. I think something Bryn was talking about, understanding the stories that we tell ourselves.
Love that.
I think there's a really, really important aspect that I learned from coaching as a sort of going through the process of learning about how to be a coach, which was actually, I don't really know much about what motivates me and what drives me. So I think one of the things we as a profession need to get better at is going into understanding our own motivations and focusing on ourselves, right, and our own behaviors and beliefs, and understanding how we show up. Because one of the things you sometimes don't realize is by your mere presence within an organization, you have an effect. So do you know what that effect is? And so sometimes one of the most important things is understanding what are your competencies, how do they show up, what impact do they have on the people around you? Because you're whether you know it or not, you're creating an environment, and that is part of what helps the change happen. Whether that's the individual conversations you have in the sort of individual coaching or therapist role, or whether you're talking to a senior leadership group about strategy. So I think for me, it's really focusing in on that kind of competencies around your own capability and how they show up at work for others.
Right. I love that. I wrote down, understand how we show up. So true, right? We don't think about that, right?
We really don't.
Yeah. Tammy, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, probably adding directly to that is understanding how you respond to things, because most of the time we respond with emotion. So noticing that, and that can help you shift how you show up. So understanding basics of brain for yourself, hugely helpful for leading change for others, because you'll start to shift your responses and you'll start to shift and notice other people. And I think the second thing is we've got so many frameworks and models and processes, and they kind of don't work with other people. So we need to fill in those gaps, because again, we don't know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. So rather than learning another methodology, is learning about all of the types of scenarios you might face. And there's only so many ways people can react and respond to change. So if you've pinned those down and you have a way to respond to them in the moment, then you can kind of deal with anything when it pops up. So rather than, you don't need to pre-plan and follow a set process or checklist. It's just being ready for anything that comes at you. And when you can do that, then you can deal with all of those emotional challenges on the spot.
Right. I love that. And how powerful is that? If you can just kind of quickly adapt like a chameleon to change, no matter what's thrown at you, how powerful is that?
Yeah, and no one will notice because it's very ninja.
Right. Ninja. Did I mention how much I love the ninja book? Sorry, shameless plug for you, Tammy. Britton, did you want to add to this?
Well,
What's the serial killer saying?
Yeah, adding serial murder onto ninjaing is, one of the men I spoke to, let's call him Sasanda. A key feature of his story was he had a very fixed story about who he was in a certain situation, and he was a polite guy, very charming, many girlfriends, but he had a single story which says, if somebody rejects me, in order to feel better, I have to hurt them. And you can imagine where that story then leads, because he was adamant that this is the only option I have. And I think sometimes in change, and especially historical approaches to change management, we risk doing the same. So I'm a program manager, so I just create the plan.
Yeah.
So what I'd suggest in terms of stories, and actually this builds really nicely on both Ket's and Tammy's point, is to help change managers prepare to have that flexibility, is start to collect stories of times when you have helped teams manage their emotions, or you have helped them articulate a future vision, or help them create a safe environment to tackle a problem. Because being able to tell that story about yourself will enable you to bring that self into your work.
Right. I love that. Great question. Great answers, you guys. I love that we're just getting through this because we have so many questions to get through today. So thank you, everybody. These are absolutely wonderful. All right. Our next question, let's move right on, is this is a good one. How does technology influence change managers, and how can it enhance their strategist, coach, and therapist roles? Who would like to tackle this one first? Tammy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we have a huge opportunity with AI. I don't like AI. I write lots of things about when it's I think we overuse it for things that we should still be being more human on. But we have a huge opportunity to change the role of the change manager, because we can get rid of all of that work about work and assign it to AI. How much time do we spend writing papers, filling in documents, following, doing the checklists, doing the readiness reports? AI, we can outsource a lot of that to AI, which gives us a real opportunity to think, okay, we really need to focus on humans. We really have an opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity, I think, to really push that change role into being very much about humans, understanding organizations, shifting people in the right way so they're excited by that change, and removing some of that ongoing fear, stress, impact that all of that has. So I think it's a huge opportunity. I'm quite excited by it if people grasp it.
I love that. And focus on the humans, right? Because the humans and AI different. We have empathy skills, soft skills, read a room, right? AI can't do that. Great answer. Louisa, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, I actually think the key part that Tammy had, which I totally agree, is that change is all about the human part. Okay, it's all about people. But where technology can help is that technology is the enabler. It's going to be an extra tool, an extra asset for you. And I think this is where it's underused, is the fact that AI can put things like frequency timers for you, just to remind you of when you need to send a comms piece out, just to do your comms piece that you've written so that they cleanse the words so it's even more articulated. And so you can get the message across the right way. How to use AI in your everyday. I had my boys do scouts the other week, and we had to do old technology, and I had to pull out this thing, cassette tapes, something that they have never seen in their life. I can tell you.
What is that? Sorcery.
Yes, what is this? But it's about the fact that AI is exactly that. AI now, what it will be in 20 years' time, is going to be part of our day-to-day. And so we've got to embrace it now to include that as part of our day-to-day as change managers, so that it's just an additional item that we're using to help us still deal with the people.
Right. I love that. And even like, Tammy mentioned, using the AI to fill in the gaps of the stuff that we can get it to do, and then still focus on the human aspect. Really good questions. All right, should we move along to the next one, folks? We have a lot to cover. We're going to try to get to as many as we can, everybody. So if we can't get to them all, we apologize in advance. All right, next question is, how can change managers foster a change embracing culture while balancing strategic, coaching, and therapeutic roles? This is a question from Jeffrey, and who would like to tackle this glorious one? No one?
I'll go. I just couldn't move my hand to raise
right,
my
Kat.
hand quick enough. Sorry.
What do you got?
I'm gonna shun technology and just use my actual physical hand. Yeah, I think this is part of a sense that I'm feeling from managers is a sense of overwhelm from constant need to think about things. So they're balancing strategic direction, right, with operational execution increasingly in volumes. And so the culture needs to be able to set appropriate boundaries. And so I think change managers have a really unique opportunity to help the key people who interact with both the senior leaders and the managers, with the employees, to kind of reassert some boundaries around what we can and can't do, that we can't just let the floodgates open and let everything in, right? If you ask any organization, absolutely, they have an infinite set of ideas. But if you really look around, you only have a finite set of resource. So we're not having those conversations enough. And I think part of the culture needs to move towards, we've always tried to do everything. That's always been the way of business. But now, not only is technology, just going back to our previous question, enabling everyone to start their own change at whatever level they want, it's also now having ripple effects with everyone around them. So guess what? It's not just top down anymore. It's sideways, it's bottom up, it's all over the place. So we have to try to create a culture that says balance finite resource with infinite ideas and make sure everyone's aligned.
Right.
And that's where I think culturally, to kind of create that organization which can deal with a huge amount of volume, we need to be kind of coaching people. We need to be having those strategic conversations which drive that kind of balancing act. And I think that's where, we have a unique opportunity.
Right. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, culture, if you don't have culture, you have nothing, right? Bren, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, I was thinking how we can create a change embracing culture, which is similar to what Kat said, is, well, creating space for people to talk about stuff that isn't just about the current change and the future strategy. So, I mean, as a practicing change manager, I mess up all the time. And I was recently having conversations with a team I was working with, and I was baffled the future, and they seemed resistant to planning, and I couldn't understand why. And a breakthrough for me happened when I stopped trying to persuade them to write a strategy document and asked them about the history of their team. So how have you come to be here? And then in telling me that story, I understood the struggle they'd had to get resources, the fact that they often were ignored or not recognized, the fact that despite all that, they built like this incredible world-leading piece of technology that they now wanted to make sure wasn't done away with in the next wave of change. And just by pausing and stepping back from trying to push change and instead focus on the human story, suddenly I had the connection I needed to start moving the change forward and the bones of a strategy document.
Yeah, love it. Makes perfect sense. Tammy, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, just adding to both those points around the moving forward, the resources, all of that good stuff, and strategies. Quite often the problem's not articulated. So we feel like we have to change all the time and we have to do all of these ideas that we've got because they sound great. But sitting down and articulating what the challenge is, what's the problem that we're trying to fix, can actually just calm all of that down a bit more, get us working towards the priority changes that will deliver against those problem statements. So it's quite often missed out of things and thinking, but go back to why are we doing this? What is the challenge that we have and what will happen if we don't fix it? Because that much more likely to get everyone engaged because they know they need to fix that problem, and then your strategies, your change, your ideas start to fall into place a little bit more easily.
Right. It's kind of like seeing the forest through the trees, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Louisa, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think the final is just to say everything that these guys have all said. The main thing is that we as change managers should be role modeling it. So we should be walking the talk. So if we say all this, we should do it. And that's going to be how we really foster that change.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Absolutely love it. Now, Kat is going a little rogue here. Kat has a question for the group. So I love this. This is the benefits of live events. So yeah. Kat, do you want me to ask your question for you?
No, I'm happy to ask, given that I have thrown it in there. I guess I was thinking of the title, right? And I was trying to discern in my own mind what would a change manager be doing differently when they're acting as a coach versus acting in a therapeutic scenario. And I because I lean more towards coaching and understanding beliefs, I wondered how far that goes beyond when you start getting into therapy and whether that's the right territory we should even be sometimes moving into, because then you get into counseling and is so uncomfortable. And I'm just interested in the rest of the panel's view where the line is.
It's almost like you have a group of thought leaders on this right here today.
Yeah, I know. How convenient.
Louisa.
Yeah, no, trust me, this is a lie that's so hard to really draw on, because putting on my mum hat, sometimes I have to be the coach and sometimes I've got to be the therapist.
Right.
And I see the coach more as someone that nudges them, okay? I'm still nudging them down a certain path and I still see where the outcome is going to be. I still know where I kind of want to nudge them down to, and I still bring skills and answers. And
what a great perspective, Tam. That's phenomenal. Phenomenal. Tammy, did you want to say something about this?
Yeah, I struggled with the therapeutic bit in this question when you approached it, and I think for me it's really, as a change leader, understanding that everybody will respond differently, because you can't, everyone's reality is different. You don't know what they're going through at home, what other stuff they've got on their plate. So as a therapist, understanding that everyone is going to react based on a whole lot of stuff that you can't influence. Right. You can't change other people, they can only change themselves. So the coaching questions will help you get there if they're stuck. But there's only so far you can support that in an organization, because everyone is going to be different. But I think creating safe environments where people can share what they're worried about, where you deal with those fears, where you accept that it is going to be uncertain and you can't give them all of the answers just now, but you create the environment to discuss that in, I think is key to do that. And I use something simple as hopes and fears at the start of a meeting. No set agenda. What are your hopes for today? What fears have you got? Let's get rid of the fears. And it starts to get rid of the fears. It starts to manage them in a much safer way where people know they can share things. And I think then you're into coaching where it is you're trying to get them to go to. But just remembering you can't change other people. So the coach is really key to getting them to shift their own mindset.
Yep. I love it. Love it so much. And folks, don't forget, I didn't forget about you, Brent. Hang on one second. Just so you guys know, there are QR codes popping up here with links to books and things. So feel free to, scan those, and you guys can dig deeper into some of these glorious books and things. And then, Brent, what did you have?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, sort of strategists give you advice, therapists heal, and coaches stretch you with questions, as Tammy pointed out. But we do need to be very careful about knowing the boundaries of our skill. There are professional bodies overseeing coaching, there's professional bodies overseeing therapy, and they've got clear ethical standards and codes of practice. So, of course, I think we need, as change managers, we need to be able to handle kind of emotional and team development conversations. But we also need to develop the skill of knowing when something's beyond our competencies, and then finding the team the support they might need.
Right. Makes perfect sense. Kat, did you want to add to your rogue question?
I wanted to thank my panelists for helping me explore this as well, really. But I think something that kind of struck me was, I think what I'm considering as coaching is bleeding to some extent into therapy, but it's stopping at that kind of healing, like that long-term trauma healing. And your boundary point's really important, because it's such a sensitive, personal, long-held set of beliefs that you're cracking open. So I think we have to be really careful to what extent we push into the therapeutic for individuals, but we have to create that space for them, like Bryn said, that is, let's listen to what's driving your behaviors, your motivations, your beliefs. Let's see what we could do to present you different ways of thinking about it. But when I need you to get somewhere, I'm going to mentor you. That's the one word we haven't mentioned, is I'm going to give you direction to lead you to a path, which I think was also kind of part of the discussion. So I think it was really helpful just to kind of bring some of these terms and sort of see where the boundary is and kind of what sometimes the dangers and ethics behind it as well are.
We're not mad at you, Kat. This was a great question.
I couldn't come on here and not mix things up.
We're not mad at you, Kat. It's good stuff. No, it's good to understand the difference. So, again, we have a group of experts. So perfect timing. All right, let's move it along. Next question is, what metrics should be used to assess the effectiveness of change managers in strategist, coach, and therapist roles? Who would like to tackle this one? Really?
Big inhale of breath.
Okay, can I say something quite controversial?
Of course, we like controversy here. Bring it on, Tammy.
You can weigh a pig, but it doesn't make it any fatter. We try and measure metrics, and as soon as you start measuring something, it's going to be the wrong thing, because it's the wrong focus. There's something around change. If we're excited by change, you're going to feel it. Everyone's motivated. Everyone's wanting this thing to happen. They're all talking about it in the coffee room. So there's yes, you could measure all that. You could do surveys, all of that good stuff. You'll know if it's working, and you'll know if it's not working. And I just think, stop trying to absolutely measure everything. And I know in big organizations you need some of that, but you'll feel it, you'll know it.
Right. Bang your head against the wall for measuring everything too much. Yeah. Louisa, I think you had your hand up first. What would you like?
And I'm fully with Tammy on that. I think when you start putting metrics down, it changes behaviors, and it will drive your change a certain way. And it may
quantitative in some way, is that busy people and our profession as a whole isn't a touchy-feely thing. There are hard facts. You're right, measuring does change behavior, and sometimes it can change behavior in the right direction. So I think we as a group need to get more comfortable with working with data and using it more effectively to help tell our stories. I don't think we can say that that's all we'll just measure it with that number and great, if it goes up, it's perfect. I think we need to be more nuanced than that. But I do think as a profession, we need to get more comfortable using data and numbers like everybody else does in their professions.
Yeah, totally get that. Tammy, I think you were up next to add to this one. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think for those things, you've probably already got the data. You've got your sickness absence levels, you've got your attainment levels, you've got your internal promotion levels, you've got your bottom line of projects delivering on time and under budget. All of that stuff probably exists. So don't create more work. Use the data you've got and check that all your KPIs are driving the right way, and then you've got the change piece right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Love that. Bryn, did you want to add to this? Then we're going to move right along, guys. I think I have to speed up.
Well, I think we've got a tendency to separate out sort of qualitative or narrative feedback from data and say it's either one or the other. And actually, it needs to be a duet between the two.
Right.
And we need to be able to be sophisticated enough to chase an organizational metric, but then also collect a story from our people to say when it felt right or when it felt wrong.
Right.
And I would love, in future to sit down with the same panel again and work out exactly how we make that happen, because I think the result would be amazing.
Yeah, I love that. Love it. All right, moving right along to our next live question. This question, I don't want to butcher the name, so I won't. In a disrupted workplace, how do you establish a vision and implement a change strategy, and what initiatives have helped senior managers in your organization adapt? What a great question. That's a good one. In a disrupted workplace, how do you establish a vision and implement a change strategy, and what initiatives have helped senior managers in your organization adapt? Good one. Tammy, want to take this?
Yeah, so I think we quite often lead change the same way, irrelevant of the type of change it is. And this is a really good one for your senior team, is understanding, do we know what we're trying to do, and do we know how to do it? And quite often we'll follow the same approach, irrelevant of the answer to those questions. If it's disrupted, if we don't really know what we're trying to do, if we've never done this before, then you're in the fog.
Yeah.
And you don't know where you're trying to go. So to get your senior team, your senior managers understanding that, will start to shift thinking and approaches. And then understanding that we need to take tiny steps. If we're stuck in the fog on the mountainside, we don't want to take great leaps because we'll jump off a cliff. So what's the first small step we need to take to get there? We don't need the big strategy described just now because we can't do it. If we describe it, we're probably going to fall off that cliff. But we need to get out of the fog. So understanding that and the approaches and the leadership needed with that, so that it reduces that disruption, it reduces the panic and fear, and just take those small steps until we know we're in a safer place, and then start to do some of the bigger planning.
Right.
But I don't see many organizations adapt an approach depending on the change type. But do we know what, and do we know how, and use that to drive that next step?
Yeah, and I love that analogy. Step out of the fog, but not off the cliff. What a great one.
Yeah.
Louisa, I think you were next to add to this.
Yeah, actually, I think the biggest question that the senior leaders have to be asked is, why are you doing this change? Why? The constant why question. And I think they all have to be aligned to that first, and that they have to understand where it rolls back to. Like Coca-Cola has a very good vision as an organization, whether it's good for society, but it's clear as a company to understand. They want a can of Coke at arm's length anywhere in the world. Okay. So every change that they drive in their organization is easy for people to go back to that vision. So it goes back here, if you're not aligned and you all don't know where you're going, it's going to be hard to know those steps that you want to take. So the challenge then is, why? Why are we doing this?
Right. Right. Yeah. That's why. Bryn, I think you had your hand up next. Go for it. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to bring it back to murder.
Murder.
I think
You're obsessed.
I can't think why that is. But interestingly, like active criminals and all the serial murderers I spoke to told stories where they are helpless victims in a cruel world. of course, faced with the circumstances I was faced with, it's inevitable that I would do these things. And I hear the same sort of victim narratives playing out when you're dealing with, chaotic, very disruptive change. It's like, oh, well, we got to wait for the directors or the bosses or the government to tell us what to do. And one of the strategies that's been most effective in my experience is by encouraging agency, encouraging people to take control of what they can control. We had a senior manager drop this. We were doing a strategy day, and he dropped in the single question, well, if not us, then who?
Right.
We're faced with this problem. If it's not our team, then who is it going to be? And the tone of the conversation then changed, because while we don't have all the questions, we might still be in Tammy's fog. At least we're demonstrating agency. Yeah. And actually, there's lots of psychological research about the beneficial therapeutic effects of agency versus victimhood.
Love that. Love it so much. Kat, did you want to add to this one really quick?
Yeah, really briefly, just because Tammy's analogy was sort of triggered in me the idea that one of the things that you need in this disruptive workplace is persistent sense making. So how do you bring groups of people together, right? If you can't see any further than the fog that's in front of you as a group, how do you come together and agree which is the next right step to take? And you need to be persistently doing that, because there is no clear set path forward anymore. So I think sense making together has become a really, really key skill. And it's the reason it's a key skill is things are so disrupted, not only in geography, in location, in social pressures. It's so now you need a skill of how do you make sense of everything together, not in your own, and how do you keep making sense as a group? Because that's kind of how the disruption kind of becomes something you can deal with.
Right. I still don't get it. What do you mean? What disruption, Kat? What do you mean? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know what they're all going on about, honestly. But
everything's so calm and quiet and peaceful. All right, we're gonna move right along to we have about 20 minutes left to go, folks. We're gonna get to what we can get to. I did just really quick before I get to the next question, want to make sure, just want to thank everybody who's following us on the chats, entering their live questions. Really appreciate it. Keep them coming. Ella, you're doing a great job in socials. So thank you guys. And without further ado, we will get on to the next live question. This question is, how does a change manager deal with stress and burnout, especially when they are expected to carry the burden of others? From Poseida, if I pronounced that correctly. What a great question. What's stress? What's stress and burnout? Tammy, what do you think?
Yeah. So this is, I think everyone should understand how the brain works in relation to change, because when you understand how you're reacting emotionally, subconsciously, you can start to shift it. You notice it, it's the physical thing. You can do some basic breathing, it calms everything down. So being able to do that as a change lead is great, because it means you'll start to use more of your logical thought processing bit of the brain to respond. So it just takes away that pressure. It starts to impact on other people, and you can start to teach it to other people. So some basic, I'm not here to product place, but come on my course and you'll find out how to do that really quickly, or get the books that are on 99 seats. Exactly. But just learning that basic stuff can be a life changer. If you ever go on holiday and you get ill on the first 2 days, it's because you're living with constant stress. And we all do that. We live in a stressful world. We just don't notice it.
Yeah.
So start to shift that. I think the second thing is teaching it to other people, because we're all autonomous beings and we've forgotten how to do this. Nobody teaches us how to manage this at school, and they should do, because the change is down to everyone. It's not just the change managers that are doing this. So you need to push that back, give people the tools, the know-how to deal with this themselves, and it's their choice. As Bryn said earlier, we all have a story to tell, and you can change that story. So if you give people the tools to change their own story, they can shift their own response, which just makes it much, much easier for everybody.
Right. I love that idea of, taking a minute and taking a deep breath. As a shameless plug here for me, I am a horse person, and not only do I do that for myself, you get nervous when the horse is acting up, but I tell that to my friends, and it's helped them. Take a deep breath, count to 10, and de-stresses you, de-stresses the 1,200-pound creature that you're sitting on. So it really helps. All right. I think, Kat, I think you had your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah. So I guess I want to make the point, and maybe that stress isn't bad. Stress is generally a way of stretching us, right? It's a way of pressing how resilient we are in any moment and what we might need to do in order to push past it so that we learn and grow. So stress is both good and bad, but the burnout is where you have a persistent amount of stress that is for so long and you aren't able to expand your resilience, and therefore it just becomes overwhelming and you do burn out. So there's an interesting activity that kind of Tammy's alluding to, right, which is this point of self-reflection. I often, in moments of stressful situations, I'll be honest, I can't control my reaction because I'm acting autonomous. It's just unconscious. I'm just reacting. Right. However, what I can do, an important development skill for me has been self-reflection. The way I reacted wasn't how I wanted to react. Why did I react that way? What could I do differently? And now I know that, what will I do differently next time? And going through that cycle afterwards is really crucial for kind of expanding your ability to be resilient. And this is what I sort of really do with line managers, is that you're constantly under various levels of stress, right? But how are you giving yourself the space to process and learn what to do about it and then build your resilience? Because these two things are connected. Hopefully you'll never burn out if you're able to reflect on the stress you experience and find ways to be resilient when you see it again. And that's kind of part of the tension. The other thing, if I may quickly add, is as change managers, I've always found it to be a very lonely job sometimes. So really, please find a network, find other people that do this job in your organization, in other organizations. Come to things like this, make networks, connect with people. Actually, shameless plug for all of us, connect with all of us on LinkedIn. We're all going to ask you to do it anyway. But it's fundamental that you have a network. You can reflect on your experiences and you can kind of learn and grow and again get some objective feedback on it. I'll shut up now.
Love that. You don't have to shut up. I love that. It's kind of like, what's that old saying? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But if you can actually recover and actually have a group around that understands what you're doing, and that's so powerful, so impactful. All right, I know we're running out of time. I am going to move right along, folks, to try to get to as many of these questions as possible. More AI. Okay, how will AI impact the future change manager and the challenges that may arise from its application? I know we touched on this, but let's get into it a little bit more, perhaps. Who wants to tackle it? Louisa, what you got?
I actually think we should be treating AI as our extra colleague. So someone that's going to be there, that's going to do some proofreading for you, someone that's going to do some sanity checking for you, someone that's going to be spirit, treat it as an extra colleague that you've got right at the palm of your hands. Able to do the human elements for you. And is AI going to replace my job? Okay, that's the constant fear that I hear people say all the time. And I think where we've got to be drawing the line is understanding that AI can never replace the human elements. And change is still all about the people. So what you can automate, what you can get AI to help you with, treat that an extra pair of hands. They're your extra colleague, your best friend almost, because this AI won't talk back to you. Unlike your actual colleague who may talk back to you, this AI will always be polite to you.
Right. I love that. At first I was kind of nervous about AI, but now Claude.ai is my new boyfriend and sidekick. And it's great. Like you said, you can use it to do the mundane stuff that you can automate, do it. And then you can spend the time focusing on the human elements that make you human and make you good at your job, at your human skills. So I love that. Bryn, I think you were next, but if not, go ahead.
Well, it's actually building on what Louise is saying, is in the situation where AI is your agent and your thinking partner, what it doesn't replace is the human need for trust or ethical action or for care or for hope.
Empathy. Yeah.
So AI is wired for code, but we humans are still wired for emotions and for the oldest technology we've got for creating connection and meaning, which is stories. So what I think will be really interesting, and actually I'd love to hand to Ket on this one, would be how do we weave those human elements in and the story elements in with that persistent sense making we need to do, aided by AI.
Yeah, love that. Ket, what do you think?
So I think so as a laggard to the adoption of AI within my role. I'm starting to play around with it, encouraged by others, right, and seeing what they're able to do. And I think it is important that we recognize it's not going anywhere. It's only going to get smarter. It's only going to get faster. It's only going to be able to do more things. So we have to figure out how to integrate it. And it is a partner. I think that thought partner is really key, right? Like the amount of time you can help cut and get to more conversations. We're time poor, right? As change managers, I'd love to get to everybody in the organization, actually have a conversation with them about this change. But I can't, because sometimes I'm doing more administrative, supportive creatives to help with landing messages with people. And I'd rather just get out and have conversations and meet people and do that sense making. So I think it's actually an enabler of creating a space for leaders to have those sense making conversations. But you really need to figure out how to use it for balance. And the one thing where I think I'm very nervous about AI is the times people are using it for the coaching aspect, the collusion it can provide in reinforcing beliefs you already have, biases it can reinforce with information it gives you. If you fully trust it to give you answers without interrogating it, then you're in much, much worse a place in my mind. So it comes with a buyer beware, must use it very diligently, but you must use it. There is no way you cannot use it in the future of the world, right? But you must use it ethically and diligently. And that's where, I think it creates a space for sense making, to Bryn's point.
Yeah, love it. Great answer. Great answer. Tammy, did you want to add to this?
Just adding to that, if you use it to give you answers to your questions, you'll get the answers that you're looking for. It will create more of that bias. So if you're going to use it, try using it to get it to ask you questions. What have you not thought about? What have you missed? And just get it to really challenge your thinking rather than give you the answers that you're seeking.
Right. I love that. Isn't that key? That's why, again, I should shameless plug for Claude, but Claude.ai is like, you can ask it to challenge you, to challenge what you're thinking and what your thoughts are. And I just love that aspect of it. So, all right, guys, I think we have time for one more question before we close up here. All right, the next and probably last question would be, this is from Mart Rovers. Hi, Mart. What would your fourth option for the future of change manager? What would be your fourth option? Mark, great question. Who wants to tackle this one? Kat, what do you got?
Oh, let Tammy go first. Go on. Sorry, I just go on. Tammy, you go first.
I was going to say one word, but it's two words: ninja humanist.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Kat, what do you think?
No
pressure.
Hand on heart, wished that change managers didn't need to be there. Really, I say this with the utmost respect for our profession and the work we do. We're needed because along the journey of organizations growing from one person to 1,000 people, leaders have forgotten they're responsible for landing change, for navigating change. I say forgotten. They've been distracted by operational responsibilities, and we separate out these roles and then we inject in the middle people to fill the gap. And so I genuinely would love the future be that we find something else, that these roles aren't needed in the way they're done now. Then maybe we're more coaches, maybe we're strategists, but the actual change manager role, I wonder whether it really should exist in the long run. Provocative.
Very interesting. Very interesting take on that. Wow, interesting. Okay, Bryn, what do you think?
I think it's a great question, and thanks for asking it. And I'm going to avoid the cliche of saying, well, my fourth option is they should be storytellers. And I'm actually going to steal something from what Kat said earlier, is that actually change managers need to be makers of meaning. Because that's been the thing we keep returning to in this conversation today, is how do people make sense of the change, and how do we encourage people to make shared sense of what's happening to them?
Right. How do you make sense of it? Great response. All right, Louisa, what do you have for this?
I I think end of the day, it goes back to the core. Change managers are back to being connectors. We join the dots. We're joining between the change and the humans. We're joining between the change and the projects. We're joining between change and leaders, change and whatnot. It's just we're connectors. So however we want to name it, we're still going to be there to join the dots.
Love it. Join the dots. Love it so much. All right, folks, unfortunately, we are at the end of our time here. So we're going to just wrap up with some quick closing remarks from everybody on our panelists today. And I'm sorry if we didn't get to everybody's live questions, but lots of good, juicy stuff here. So we got through what we could. So first of all, thank everybody. Thank you so much for everybody for joining the call today and for all you wonderful panelists. Such great experience here. Can't thank you enough. So closing remarks, let's start with Bryn. Just give us kind of the short version of what you thought of today and any last remarks that you have to give to the audience.
I thought it was brilliant. If ever I looked away from the camera, it's because I was actually taking notes of what my fellow panelists were saying. So I know I'll be connecting with them outside of this. And I do believe that listening to one another's stories can make life so much better. So let's keep sharing these type of stories, and I hope everyone listening shares theirs.
Love it. Love it. We'll go next to Tammy. Any last thoughts?
Some of the basics we haven't covered, resistance to change, are still key to making all of this work. You know, it's not necessarily the next big buzzword, but some of that stuff is really important and fundamental to change. And you can do it without people noticing. So do adopt some ninja skills, because you don't need to shout it from the rooftops. Do it quietly underneath, and it will make change significantly easier.
I love that. The quiet ninja. Quiet ninja. Did I mention Tammy wrote a book? Sorry. All right, Kat, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the analogy that Tammy used around the sort of fog really reminded me about the importance of sense making. And I think the whole conversation has been about creating those spaces and bringing people together and helping them understand both themselves, yourself, and how you collectively move forward. And that's an increasingly important set of skills as a leader. And I think for us as change managers, we're doing that in every workshop, facilitate session we run, every communications we write. So yeah, I think just that sense making is key.
Yeah, love it. Louisa, wrap us up.
I think just embrace change. Change starts with you. So just get out there and change.
Yeah, love it. Get out there and change. Just do it. Right? It's going to happen whether you want it to or not. So, all right. So well done, everybody. Thank you so much once again to all the audience for joining in today, all the great live questions, everybody who participated in socials. And don't forget, over on our APMG International website, you can search for answers to over 3,000 questions. It's a free resource connecting you with experts from around the world. And don't forget, you can also listen to the audio versions of our shows on your preferred podcast platform. And just kind of looking ahead, we do have some upcoming shows on September 3rd, Leading in the Age of AI, Human Touch versus Tech Efficiency. That's going to be a good one. September 17th, Future Proof Your Career, the skills that will matter most. And then on October 1st, The Modern Project Leader, what skills do you actually need? So we've got some really great shows coming up, guys. And again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a ton of valuable learning content available to you free of charge. Thanks, everybody. Thank you to all the panelists. We really appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a bunch.